I actually have read the New Zealand report, and I also have studied prostitution in New Zealand, and one of the things that happened in New Zealand is what a Maori community activist called an apartheid system of prostitution. In New Zealand, the Maori people are prostituted much younger and much longer, and they're more frequently homeless. So we again have that situation in New Zealand of a special class of people who are
Melissa,
more
are you saying that regulation can never wipe out abuses, or do you just not like the idea anyway?
Well, let's talk about the regulation. What happens in real life in New Zealand, to stick with that for a minute, is that zoning is the sine qua non of regulation of prostitution.
You mean
so
where an establishment is? Where it happens?
The people who have a lot of money don't want it in their backyards. So it's zoned into the neighborhoods of poor people, thereby increasing trafficking, johns, solicitations, and their general vulnerability to all aspects of the sex industry. This happened in New Zealand.
But the clarification I'm looking for is that if Tyler is right, and ultimately a system of regulation could be developed to avoid the sorts of abuses that I've been talking about, would that be okay with you?
Here's the answer to that. It's counterintuitive. It's been tried and it didn't work. The mayor of Amsterdam said, and I think this is true of many people, we thought it would work to regulate. Well-intentioned people thought it would work to regulate, and it didn't. It's very counterintuitive. They're shutting down over 1/3 of the legal brothels in Amsterdam right now. Why? Because of 80% of the women in Dutch legal prostitution are moved there from economically stricken Europe, and because there's organized crime that's out of control. Legalization is a pimp magnet. So, I mean, that's the answer. We know that it doesn't work. It's been tried.
Can I just respond to that?
I was going to actually try to get the next question to go to you. How about that?
I just wanted to know.
I guess not.
I just wanted to know, because I haven't heard the answer to this on this point, if I may. If it's a question of being badly regulated, then why do we see in the countries where it's been legalized, we see that the trafficking has increased? Nobody has addressed my point that nobody asks the ages of the girls when they pay for sex, and that's the link between the trafficking, and no one has addressed that so far.
From the back, please, gentlemen.
Okay, this is for the women who say it's wrong to pay for sex.
Let's aim this
first. Just want to establish fact. Is it okay for you guys that a woman be a professional female masseuse and give massage therapy to a man?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No problem with that.
Is it okay if a man goes to a particular masseuse because he finds her extremely attractive and is turned on by it, and only receives massage therapy?
We're talking slippery slope here, right?
I can see it getting slippery.
So that's okay. All right. Third question. If during that process...
Not if the man were my husband.
If during that process he has an orgasm, even though the woman didn't do anything out of the ordinary, did only professional massage therapy, is that okay?
I don't know. I mean, I think this is the kind of...
This one has stymied.
I think what you're trying to do with the question is collapse the distinction between human touch and the significance of sex. And I think sex is different, and just because you're giving someone a massage, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think that sexuality is something different, and you can always come up with an extreme example to collapse that distinction, but that just begs the question.
Okay, we are halfway through the direct head-to-head part of the debate. I want to remind you I'm John Donvan, your moderator, and I want to now go to the other side of the table. Lionel Tiger, who argues against the motion, wants to pick up on that last point.
Well, first of all, there's a kind of ahistorical component to the other side. There's a famous syndrome in Turkey, rural Turkey, the Natasha. The Natasha is a Russian woman who goes to a small town in Turkey and capsizes the entire system because she's sexually available. Now, the reason Natasha is there is because the men in Russia are drunk all the time. They have a very low longevity. They are improper and not very useful husbands. The result is the birth rate in Russia, which is plummeting. It's a major crisis, actually. But the reason for the Natashas comes out of a really poignant human story. And I continue to feel that we're losing not the nicety of the argument here, we're losing the grandeur of the human issues that force some people into a small, intimate room where they do something. And yes, it causes some people the distress that we've heard about. None of us on this side applauds that. At the same time, this is not exactly a trivial issue, and I'm afraid it's being reduced in its importance into a sentimental kind of grab bag of victim complaints.
Why sentimental?
Well, because it's easy. It's very easy in this country and everywhere else to talk about racial, class, distinctions, and so on. Many of the clients of prostitutes, I suspect, don't have a great deal more money than the prostitutes. I don't know. But essentially what I'm trying to do here is get the argument into the larger context of human sexuality and away from a relatively again, sentimental concern. There was just, if I may make one final comment on this, there was recently the publication, and we've known in the primatology trade about it for years, that it turns out that chimp males who hunt will give meat to women who... Well, if female... maybe, to female chimps. But the fascinating thing is that it's not just a quid pro quo, because these become sustained and durable relationships in which the male is a consort and an associate of the female, even when she's not in estrus and therefore sexually available. And that it's kind of haunting, because it suggests that this is actually a more elegant phenomenon than just giving meat to a female.
Okay. I see Wendy Shalit is quite anxious to come in on this. Wendy, can you just find your microphone? Thanks.
Sorry. I'm surprised by the negative's reliance on the argument that it's not going away, and historically a lot of people have been doing it. We're not debating whether it's common to pay for sex. We're not debating whether it's happened. We're arguing whether it's right or wrong, right? And I think, I mean, if you bring up primatology, I have to bring up Mr. Tiger, your book, which I really enjoyed, The Pursuit of Pleasure, which was a pleasure to read, by the way, I must say. I found one example really interesting. You mentioned female genital mutilation, and you said what's significant about female genital mutilation is that males want sexual access to women, but they cannot bear it when other men have access to their mates. A common solution to the problem is the double standard, of which female genital mutilation, you say, is the extreme representation. Here the effort is to try to control both sex and reproduction at once by imposing strict controls on the sexuality of women in an effort to prevent their wives' impregnation by men other than themselves. Now, I think we can always, you bring up chimps and primatology, we can explain, yes, female genital mutilation in terms of primatology, but I hope we can all agree that that's still wrong. And just because the chimps can provide an explanation doesn't mean that it's right.